Hi, I'm Lisa, and welcome to Bite Size Learning. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can align some common classroom practices with the current COVID protocols. You'll be surprised to find that there's some things you can do this year that you may not have been able to do last year. So let's review them. First, we're going to talk about collaboration. There are opportunities to have your students collaborate in a COVID-safe way this year. The main rules are that the students are all facing in the same direction. So if they're working together, they should all be facing the work, whether it's a whiteboard or a Chromebook or something else on the desks in front of them. They should all be facing in the same direction. Of course, the students should be masked at all times. Desks can be arranged in pairs or groups of 3. They don't have to be in singles this year. Seating plans or groups can be changed as often as desired, even more than once per class. And flexible seating is permitted if you want to change up your seating plans every day. Students may work in small groups at vertical surfaces, such as whiteboards or chart paper, as long as they maintain as much physical distancing as possible. And you don't need to put markers on the floor to say where they have to stand. Just instruct them to face the vertical surface and maintain as much distance as is possible within their group. When you're engaging in any activities where facing in the same direction or distancing is a challenge, try and make sure you limit those activities to a maximum of 15 minutes. So you'll see in some images some different seating arrangements. The one at the very top, 3 students sitting side by side in a row, all facing the same direction, is just fine in terms of setting up your classroom. As is the next image, where they're a little bit angled but still mostly facing the same way. The last picture, where students are facing one another, would not be permitted according to our public health guidelines this year. Next, we're going to talk about small group instruction. You can engage in small group instruction in your classes this year by following a few safety rules. So the teacher can be standing at a whiteboard or seated at a table where the teacher is in the middle and the students are physically distanced as much as possible from one another. Of course, everyone is masked. The group or the students are seated or standing at a distance, but are able to look at and discuss work with their neighbor or partner. And again, if physical distancing or avoiding facing one another is a challenge, these conference times should be limited to 15 minutes. And any materials that are used should be disinfected before being used by a different cohort, but we're going to talk about that next. For resources and manipulatives, if possible, create individual sets of resources to be assigned to each student for the semester. If you don't have enough resources or don't have the classroom space to make that happen, you can have these things shared between students in the same cohort without disinfecting between use. So that single whiteboard or chart paper marker can be shared throughout a group, or books can be shared within a group, or other manipulatives like dice or base 10 blocks or anything else you're using in your classroom can be shared throughout the cohort without disinfecting. Disinfecting does need to take place between cohorts. So if possible, create cohort sets. One set is always for use in class A, and another set is always for use in class C, let's say. If you only have one set, then those resources do have to be disinfected before being used by a different cohort, so between those different classes. And also keep in mind that there are virtual options for many of the resources and manipulatives you may want to use in your classroom, so consider them as an option as well. Now, one disclaimer, these protocols were approved as of September 7th, 2021, but we know that public health protocols are subject to change at any time. So be sure, unless you're watching and using these in the first week of September 2021 to double check with your administrator or the WRDSB Safe and Healthy Schools officer to make sure that what you're doing in your classroom does align with public health protocols. At the end of the day, we just want to make sure that everyone is safe. We hope this video has helped you realize that there are many things you can be doing in your classroom that you may not have been able to do last year. So get back to doing that collaborative learning, that small group instruction, using those resources. Just make sure you're doing it in a safe way. Thanks so much for joining us during this episode of Bite Size Learning. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or ideas for future bites, please reach out to myself, Lisa Hicknell, or my partner, Jillian Waters, and please follow us on Twitter